So good afternoon. From a very sunny day again in Dorset. We've been having an excellent week this week as part of Armed Forces Week as we celebrate the true value that you all have to bring to the sector in engagement sessions with Amy and HS2, who really do appreciate the value that you bring to their organisations. So fantastic to have, on that note, two of our own brilliant veterans and their wonderful transferable skills, and they're going to take you through their journeys into the world of facilities management. So sit back, enjoy. Over to you, Angela.
Thank you, Caroline. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the BuildForce Virtual Career Chats. I'm Angela Forbes, and it is a pleasure to welcome you. So thank you for dialing in. Now, we continue to host these virtual chats during lockdown to bring our service leavers and veterans closer to you, the construction industry and the careers within it. And it was going so well that 2.5 years later, we're still doing them. So it is a pleasure to welcome you all nationwide and to bring you closer to our sector and to our employers. So this afternoon, we're joined by two veterans to discuss their transition into the fascinating world of facilities management. Now, for many of you, this may be an extension of what you're currently doing in the Armed Forces, or perhaps it's something you'd just like to know more about. So we've got two giants in this space, and we'll hear from David Nash from Vinci Facilities and Alex McRae from VIVO Defence. We'll take questions at the end, so feel free to write in any comments as we go. And without further ado, I'll hand to David to kick us off. We'll switch our cameras off. David, you bring your presentation up.
All right, load another presentation. All right. I've been out 7-8 months. So previously was W2 Nash. I was a Royal Engineer, and I was a Utilities and Petroleum Warrant Officer. Currently, I'm David Nash, Mobile Authorised Person Petroleum for Vinci, and I'm also a reservist, changing cap badge. I'm Sergeant Major for a Port and Maritime Squadron within the RLC. This is me previously, young and handsome, and no longer that case. All right, contents of this presentation. I'm going to cover my resettlement timeline, what my aim was for resettlement, my current job, some recommendations and advice, and some mental health advice, because this is not an easy thing you're about to undertake. So my timeline, we all know if you do 24 years, you get 2 years of resettlement. And if you do less than that, you only get 1 year of resettlement. To my mind, it's still not long enough, but you're about to find that out. So my out date was 28th of October, or 26th of October, sorry, 2020, but I was still on exercise. I did have a plan that on the exact day I was going to march in and book my resettlement brief and my CTW, but as you will find out, the military life takes over, and this is something you have to bear in mind. Now, I booked all this in a rush, and at the moment, so I'm going to talk through my feelings as well. I'm feeling quite excited about this point, about signing off. And then you realise, silly season, it's December, I've done nothing. Normal. January, normal. Another thing not to forget is, like February, as put here, Warrant Officer CLM, there are still courses. The Warrant Officer CLM comes with a leadership, level 6 leadership and management, which is also a good resettlement for you. At this point, I was still feeling normal. March, nothing. Again, a feeling of normalness. April 21, the CTW. When you're on the CTW, this is when it hits home for the first time, to realise that life's about to change for you in a massive way, and this is where the nerves just start setting in. I also was trying to find a house, which many of you might be doing at the same time. Not that I recommend trying to leave the army, finding a mortgage, resell the family. It's a very, very difficult time. The last thing you want to do is make it more difficult for yourself. But unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast and something you have to deal with. Now, there's a series of exercises. As you see here, June, July, August, September, October, I'd done nothing. Looking back, what a waste of time. However, the military needed me more, the mortgage needed me more, the family needed me more. Things take precedence, which isn't a great way to go. Come to November, I was on my AP Petroleum course and AP Mechanical course, which again wasn't part of my resettlement, but part of my current job. However, it did feeding nicely. So the moral of that one is, what you can get out of the military, get out of the military while you can. Still a feeling of normality, so military courses surrounded by military people. December 21, an IOS Managing Safely course, and still feelings of normality. January, 2022 facilities management level course. It's not an easy course for me. There was a lot of writing and essays to be done. And at this point, you see my feelings. I was getting pretty sick of courses, which you may find happens, especially if you squash them all together. February, nothing happens. Feeling normality. And March, certain people started putting me onto previous qualifications. So I got this level 5 logistics management on the back of a previous RQMS qualification. Still feelings of normality. April 2022, I joined something called Duncan Waterhouse, a joint forces scheme, which nothing came from it, but I was trying different avenues, trying everything I could at the time to try and build up what I was doing. June 2022, I heard about BuildForce late and I signed up to BuildForce. At this point, I was starting to panic. It was just around the corner. It does creep up on you faster than what you think, and the panic will set in from normality very, very quickly. August 2022, I put pen to paper and started writing CVs, probably later than what you should have. And I put everything out on the CTP website, employment agencies, CV libraries, developed a LinkedIn thing. This was about 3 to 4 months before I was getting out, and I was panicking. And when I say I was highly emotional, if somebody mentioned to me getting out, there was a wibble in my voice. So yes, I was going downhill fast. September 2022, this was the first job interview. I had 4 job interviews, offered 2, and I was terrified. The first job interview, I can't describe how terrified I was. But upon getting that job, a couple of weeks later, the feeling of relief, you've done it and you want to, but that's not where it should stop. You want to try and go for as many job interviews and so you can pick and choose your jobs. 3rd of October, I started work at Vinci, so I had a month overlap between military life and civilian life. And again, I was still feeling nervous. 20th of October, I officially left the army, and this is where the emotions start again. You've just realised you've just left 24 years of your life behind. As a backup to me, 29th of October, I joined the reservists, and this is where you start feeling lost, what you missed out on, and the anxiousness sets in. Onwards from my timeline, since I've left, I've gained a level 6 in engineering management. This was through a military scheme, RECPD. So you're still developing, even though you're on the other side of it. Vinci have put me through AP refresher, petroleum courses, level 4 confined space management courses. And I've also had people, since I put so many places out there, I've had different people contact me. And I did get called along to a job interview a few weeks ago, not that I was looking, but because the information is still in the system, there's people. I had a chat with an RE colonel, and I decided that job wasn't for me. But it doesn't mean because I've got one job, I've closed my options. And I've now got a future development plan. I'm not sat here thinking that's it for me. The company Vinci, I think, are quite good. They've sat me down through what my development's going to be and where I'm going to go in the future, which I really liked, and something that really didn't happen in the military that well. All right, what was my aim? My aim was to become a facilities manager, so I aimed on my training in facilities management. Just in case some of you don't know the difference between hard and soft FM. Soft FM's all your background, your grass cutting, your rubbish bin collections, sorting out cleaning regimes, all that sort of thing. And your hard FM's going to be all your building infrastructure. In my case, I've gone down a niche level of petroleum, but as I said, it's FM. It's a big area. So what qualifications did I need? When you're choosing what to do, I know everyone doesn't like it, but you have to do a health and safety qual. It just looks good. I'd say a minimum of IOSH. NEBOSH is generally preferred outside. I'd done my level 4, plus I had all my previous technical qualifications, including the level 6 in engineering maintenance. Backup qualifications to my job role, leadership and management, level 5 logistics. It just shows us more about to you. It's not a case of the more you've got. I'm actually trying to pick and choose what I chose for the job role. But what they are looking for on the outside is experience, and it's getting that across verbally. I've put across plant fleet manager for 144 vehicles in austere environments. The plan and service and maintenance. I've got me 3 years of SQMS, which also included like the FM qualities of the waste, grass cutting, accommodation, plan ahead for exercise, logistics, which includes the soft FM of ordering toilet paper, silooms, hand wash. I've got some specialist qualifications in 3 years in tech training. Oh, sorry, pumps and pipes. I was with the water development team. Boreholes, maintenance, refurbishments, which also adds to your skill knowledge for the FM side of life. Then I've got my 3 years in fuel, which didn't just include the fuel, but it was tech training, planning individual developments, which if you do the FM course, you realise it also can be part of an FM role. Equipment management, specialist knowledge of legislations. My company Vinci are subcontracted DIO, which means I come under JSP 375, and that's also a selling point if you understand JSPs. And for me, I understood JSP 375 and 317 intrinsically, which helped towards this job role. As I may have previously said, I applied for the FM job role at Vinci. That's what I wanted to do, but because my history in the engineers was fuel related, they said, we don't want to give you that one. However, it's, you know, I mean, they can find an FM on there, but they can't find someone who fuel quals. It wasn't something I thought about, but then I went for the job interview, asked loads of questions, and I went for it because what they offered me was absolutely fantastic. And as I previously said, this is a very specific FM role. If you know the APs, there's a lot of varieties of APs. There's mechanical, petroleum, electrical, and these are very specific areas. My current job, so I've already stated I'm an authorised person in petroleum. I write safe systems of work, monitor safe system work, and I write the health and safety paperwork to make the maintenance and repair of MOD fuel installations happen. On coming onto the company, I have 1 year to complete the training. However, because of my background knowledge, I've completed it in 4 months, which they are chuffed to bits about. And I've also started looking in where they can recruit people with my sort of training. So this is what I've done in the inside. I've tried to influence them hiring veterans as well for the future. As I previously stated, I've got knowledge of DSP 375 and 317. I've had to learn knowledge of petroleum installations on 20 different sites, from bulk fuel installations, motor transport fuel installations, and ancillary tanks, which is quite a lot of knowledge to glean in quite a short space of time. I've got knowledge of systems and procedures on the sites, or I've had to learn the knowledge of systems and procedures on site and where the documents and keys, just the little things that nobody thinks about happens. But also have a knowledge of the military. So when they ask me for where's this document, I know that sits with the QM main department. I know where to go. So that's also a helpful hint for this company. I also understand military people and the pressures they're under. On average, I do about 1 day's paperwork, which is a lot of paperwork, but I do 2 days practical. So monitoring equipment, monitoring people, gas monitoring, as well as monitoring the work they're doing. And 7 months on from being out, I think I found my balance. It's not about balance at all. Recommendations and advice. Any plan's better than no plan. No plan provides first contact. To that end, have plan A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Agree your plan with your boss. Now, give a plan to your boss. If you get on with your boss, this is a great thing. If you don't get along with your boss, I recommend you make an Excel plan of your resettlement scheme and also to give it to the welfare officer, because then it goes wrong. You can say, this is my plan. Legally, this is what I'm going to do. So we can back you to the hill as well. Cast your net wide. As I said earlier, I've gone everywhere. I've tried everything. I've put my CV out there far and wide. The more you do, the more job offers you're going to get. So cast your net wide, the more fish you'll catch. Everybody's journey is different. You'll always have that bloke in the mess saying, I've had my CV done for 6 months or 4 years or whatever it is. I've had this done. Your journey's different. But just remember, don't leave it to the last minute. Mental health. As I said, my mental health was up during this process, and it will be affected. Make sure you're aware of your personal condition. Self-awareness is key to mental health, and have somebody to talk to. Mistakes will happen. I'll admit now, my first interview with DIO was embarrassing to say the least. However, I put it down to experience and you can learn from it. All right, as well as watching your Yeah, sorry, as well as watching yourself and your mental health during the resettlement process, it'll take a while to adjust on the other side. I'm still having feelings of loss and anxiety because 24 years of my life have gone, and I'm still anxious about what the future holds. A lot of veterans are diagnosed with mental health issues after they get out. My advice is, and I work for a mental health charity, is join a club, become part of something again, a working man's club, a men's shed, a charity sport, a motorcycle club, but do what you enjoy. Make time for your family. I'll admit now openly, me and my wife are struggling because she's not used to having me home and I'm not used to being home. But make time for your family, your friends, and make time for yourself is the key one there as well. Make sure you have somebody to talk to about your feelings. The old days of every man is a castle and stum now. Talk to somebody. Generally, somebody going through the same process as you will understand you better, or somebody that's got out can help advise and guide you through this. As I said, I work for a charity full of veterans, so I go there and get my banter, I get abused, and I feel happier about it. And that is the end of my brief, and we'll save the questions at the end of the presentation.
David, thank you very much for that. That was fantastic. Okay, I'll give you time just to take that down, and if I could ask Alex to join us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear and see me?
We can.
Fabulous. Okay. So Alex McRae, I am the Technical Compliance Manager for VIVO Defence. We cover Built Estate Central and Built Estate Southwest. And we also have a number of United States overseas sites on our contract as well. So my job role is, in short, is to make sure we comply with the contract in terms of planned maintenance. But before I go into sort of more details, I thought I'd give you a flying visit of my career. So I joined the Royal Navy in 1982 as an artificer apprentice, undertook a 4-year engineering apprenticeship where I gained a BTEC National Diploma in Engineering and City Guilds and fitting and turning. So back in those days, you were expected to turn your hands to anything, fix anything using the skills by hand. That has now been superseded. We don't give people those sort of skills now. Everything is done by fixed by replacement. I then went on to carry out submarine and nuclear training before joining my first submarine in 1987, and spent the remainder of my 17.5-year career between sea drafts, which were typically 2.5 years long, working as a maintainer and an operator. So at sea, we would operate the nuclear steam raising plant and doing routine maintenance checks that we could undertake at sea. And then when we came alongside to do a maintenance period, we would do most of the planned maintenance on board. So in between the sea drafts, I would then spend my time working in nuclear repair facility, where we would use our specialisms to support the submarine crews who couldn't do some of the specialist tasks and some of the more extensive repairs they couldn't do themselves as well. So over the years, I sort of gained promotion to Warrant Officer 2, and in the final 5 years of my time in the Navy, I spent in a management role as Warrant Officer 2. Okay, so what did I do to enhance my career prospects before I left the Navy? Well, I looked quite far ahead, if I'm perfectly honest. I recognised that a national diploma in engineering wasn't a particularly high qualification when the apprentices that were joining the Royal Navy at the time were going through a 4-year apprenticeship and coming out with an HND. So I decided that I would use some of my education grant that was available to me, and went and saw my divisional officer and said, this was on one of my shore service times, so I had about 2 years shore service due to me, and asked him if I could go to college. And I went back to college 1 day a week for 2 years to do HNC in plant engineering. which I subsequently topped up to an HND in my last year before leaving the Navy. Coupled with that, talking to a lot of colleagues who were in a similar position to myself, we were all singing along the same hymn sheet and thought it was worthwhile joining an institute. That process is one I would highly recommend. So if you've got a particular skill, whether it's in engineering or whether you're an accountant or whatever, I would highly recommend you put yourself forward and join an institute, because basically what they do is they interview you. You have to do a presentation, you have to give them a précis of what you've done over your career, and then you will be awarded one of 3 levels. So in the engineering world, it's engineer and technician, incorporated engineer, or a fellow. Luckily, I applied for incorporated engineer, which is typically now you need to have a degree to get incorporated engineer level. Fellows tend to be for those who are sort of chartered engineers. So with my HND and incorporated engineer status, I started making applications about six months before I left the Navy. I was in a fortunate position that my last sea draft was shore based. So I was on HMS Talent in refit, and if I'm honest, it was quite a sort of relaxed job, because most of the work was undertaken by the dockyard. So my job was mainly around sort of doing a bit of paperwork to ensure we met their requirements and so forth. So in the last 12 months, well, last 18 months, I started looking at resettlement courses. So I went on a lot of the free ones that are available to you, so like CV writing and so forth. And interesting enough, David mentioned about health and safety and doing IOSH or NEBOSH. I have to admit, I steered firmly away from health and safety. I think it's a dry subject. However, you do need health and safety for whatever role you do, especially in facility management. So I elected to do an engineering course through Greenwich University, which was a management and engineering course, which I ended up with a diploma in. So I used probably about 4 of my 7 weeks resettlement doing that particular course. Luckily for me, I was offered a job at DM Kyneton, which is an explosive storage base in the middle of Warwickshire, with about 4 months to go. So I went and saw my boss and said, any chance you can release me early? And I said, well, I still had about 2 weeks resettlement left, and I had obviously my terminal leave to take, and he was willing to release me a couple of weeks early. So basically I got a couple of weeks free out of the Navy. So I started working for Serco in early July, so basically 2 months before I was due to leave the Navy. So the role I did initially at DM Kyneton was a combination of response maintenance and plan maintenance, predominantly looking after the mechanical side of systems. And then I was fortunate enough in 2009, so 5 years later, I applied for a technical compliance manager role and was fortunate to get that role. So I've been in facility management pretty much all my career, whether it's been on a nuclear submarine, fixing steam turbines, working on the nuclear steam raising plants, or working in a facility management role supporting other ships and submarines. I did do some work on some ships as well, so changing feed pumps and so forth. And then obviously when I went into my first facility management role, I also did some of the role duties that David does. So I did AP for petroleum, confined spaces and mechanical systems, because we had steam boilers at DM Kyneton, so I had to do permits for that, and not only manage the permits, but also manage the plan maintenance for all the steam boilers. And then later on, like I said, when I got promoted into my current role, I look after all the plan maintenance for all our contracts. So on the previous contract, we had all four regional prime contracts. So included the area that David was talking about in the southeast, and very much the same. So I've also helped in mobilizing contracts, so use my expertise of plan maintenance to work out what we needed to do to comply with the contract. So we had one set of standards which we maintained on the previous contract. The client's DIO have now decreed that we comply with a different set of standards, SFG 20, and we had to match what we did before to make sure we carried on doing the plan maintenance on the new contract to make sure everything remained compliant. David has obviously alluded to quite a few other things. I think being an ex-serviceman working in this industry, you have the right mindset. You understand the client, and in my role, certainly when I was in the Navy, it was you have a can-do attitude, and that's why VIVO, and I'm sure Vinci are exactly the same. We like to employ ex-servicemen. I believe we currently have in excess of 12% of our workforce that are ex-service personnel, and I'm a member of the veterans group. We've set up a group, and we are actively going around the estates trying to recruit ex-servicemen. I've been on one of Caroline's BuildForce events, which was really good. So that really, in a nutshell, is what my career has been about. So I think we've got 30 minutes for questions. Thank you very much.
That was brilliant, Alex. Thank you very much. If I could ask David to join us, and Caroline, if she's there. If you do have a question, please raise your hand. Otherwise, type it in the box. There's a few come in that we'll pick up on. So listen, thank you to both of you for that. That was brilliant. So to you, David, you kicked it off. You mentioned that you had it all going on during your transition. So with regards to those closest to you, kind of namely being your family, what was their initial transition like from the armed forces as well?
Well, as I was saying, it's a difficult question, but I had everything on my plate, and I was trying to keep it away from them, so they weren't too bad, apart from the fact I was coming like a bear with a sore head most nights. And as I said, having too much on your plate, you can overwork yourself and overstress yourself. So I would recommend you can try and split out buying a house or a settlement and leaving the army. But I know 80% of people on there are probably going to buy the house, do the settlement at the same time. It is difficult when your family is stuff to consideration, and try not to take it home.
Okay, so I very much get the impression you're under everybody's feet at the moment. Now you've got that 9 to 5 and you're back home. Are you kind of secretly loving it and enjoying it?
I do like the job on board, and the missus knows on board, and I'm annoying when I'm bored. So.
You're just a general nuisance, so we need to kind of get that back garden done up. So you tickled us actually when you mentioned that your DIO interview, didn't go well. So how bad was that? What was that experience like?
I got angry. I had an ex-RF officer pushing me for an answer, and I was saying, you don't understand the role I was under. And she pushed the question again. As I said, because I was under so nervousness at the time, I snapped a bit of red off, and I don't recommend doing that in any job interview. But that's not normally me. So that goes to show what signs of pressure are under for that to happen. Although they did offer me a job in another location, so it wasn't all that bad. It just wasn't the job I wanted.
And just at the end of that interview, you go home, bear with a sore head again. How do you pick yourself up? Because you're at this point, you are resettling, you're demilitarizing, you probably feel a little bit isolated. What advice would you give to others that are finding the interview stage a bit tricky or a bit lonely?
As I said, you have got to be very self-aware, and you have got to realise, and so that is a bad one, put it into the past. Make notes on what you've done bad. There are commonality questions, take down the notes. And as I said, I can go to a veterans charity where there's plenty of people that have been what I've been through, so I can ask for their help and advice. And again, we swear at each other, and that's where it makes me feel better. And that's why I reckon to everybody to have that somebody to talk to, as well
and
as
in time
from the whole experience.
Yeah, and in time you will laugh it off. You will recover and you'll get through it. It's just good to have somebody there. So Alex, listen, thank you very much for your contribution as well. You mentioned that you worked with Serco for a couple of months before you left the Navy. How useful was that civvy experience? What did you really learn during that period?
Well, I mean, it was just a 2-month overlap. I continued working with Serco for about 18 months before I troopy transferred into the next contract. So it was very useful because it gave me an opportunity to sort of find out what they were about. I was living away from home for the first few weeks, but I'd committed myself. I sold my house in Plymouth, spent quite a lot of money moving up to the Warwickshire area, and was told by somebody on day one, oh, by the way, have you been told that the contract is due to come to an end in 12 months? And I thought, no, that nobody told me about that. And I had a massive panic because I just spent an absolute fortune moving my family up, and I was thinking, last in, first out. So I went and saw my boss the following morning, and he said, oh, don't worry. He says, we'll get you on these AP courses, and you'll be the first one that will troopy transfer across. And fair play to him, he was right. I've troopy transferred 3 times now, so I've worked for Serco, Carillion Enterprise, Amy, and now VIVO. So the transition is from one company to another is no big issue to me now.
And what do you mean by troopy transfer?
So under transfer under provision employment laws, I think it is. So if you're in a current role, so take David, for example. Let's say somebody else comes in and wins the Southeast contract, and it's likewise for me, but he's in a better position because his role is defined. Mine is more support services. They have to, under law, take everybody on that currently works for that contract. So if VIVO had won Southeast, for example, or if we were to win Southeast in 7 years' time, when the contract is due up, under those laws, David transfers across to VIVO, and then he would be employed by VIVO. In some cases, if the face doesn't fit or the employment structure is different, then they may make people redundant. But APs are like gold dust, so that's why, in my case, back in 2005/6, I wasn't worried because I knew I had those 3 AP tickets that would guarantee me work in the next contract.
And in terms of being able to glean advice like that, we've had a brilliant question from Lee asking about work experience. So obviously he's got months before he's due to leave. He wants to best use that time. And he thought would work experience give him that insight, give him a flavour for it. Do you recommend that? Should it be just a Friday every week for a couple of months, or does a block of a couple of weeks or a month? What would you advise for somebody wanting to do work experience? David, sorry.
As I'd say, it gives him the opportunity, which I never had, to step into a job role to see if he enjoys it first.
Yeah.
If he doesn't enjoy his job role, he's gonna suffer. So yeah, it's brilliant for that one, as well as getting networking with the people here. So I'm not saying he's going to guarantee a job, but increase his chances of a job by doing that. So yeah, no, it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
I concur. I seem to think that Rachel McGowan, who's our head of learning and development, and I went to, we met Caroline in London, and I'm fairly sure that Rachel's taken a few names with a view of taking people on for some sort of work experience. So if somebody's got a particular niche they want to go into, then we're more than happy to take people for work experience.
And Caroline, the benefit of the work experience, is that a conduit to employment? Are you finding there's a correlation there?
I think
yeah,
so.
I mean,
Yeah.
just a couple of things. I'm working directly with VIVO and Vinci on those work placements, but yeah, a lot of our candidates have secured employment off the back of a work placement. You know, it's not attached to a job, but it's all about timing. If you've got on well with that team and that company, then they'll keep you in mind, and when your service leave is coming up, generally get in touch with. But I would always say you manage that relationship, so make sure you keep in touch with that employer and say, look, I've got 3 months coming up, really enjoyed my time with you. Is there any opportunities? You have to manage this yourself. You've got a good relationship there, so keep on top of it.
And what are you got to consider as well? For us to recruit people, if we have to go through agencies, it will cost thousands. And so if we can pick someone off, from the street straight away without having to go through that process, that's a win-win for all concerned.
Fantastic. The other question that Lee's asked there was, he's booked onto the NEBOSH General in July, and then the NEBOSH Fire Safety in September. So he's asking, is that a good fit? So the response that you gave, David, was the AP Petroleum course, the Site Safety Supervisor. Would that advice be to Lee to continue down your trajectory, your pathway, or is that just general?
If that's what he wants to do, that is a very specific one. It's if he wants to stay in the petroleum world and he's got the petroleum ticket. As the person recruiting me says, we can't find anybody with a petroleum ticket out there. So if he's got it, his chances of finding a job in that area are going to be massive.
There you go, Lee. So worth asking. A question from Martin. Martin, thank you for asking that. So, understanding your situation and your route to interview, in hindsight, when would you apply for positions, considering that some are advertised and they've got a closing date, and sometimes that closing date doesn't fit with your own TX date? What do you do in that case? I'll ask that to Alex first.
Well, like I said, I applied long before. Perhaps I was lucky. Really, I was very lucky to get a job offer 4 or 5 months before I was due to leave. But I see no reason why you can't start applying. I was advised 6 months before, because if you work back, you've got a month's terminal leave. So there's 1 month you can use to work for your employer. And if you've got any resettlement time owing, you can use that as well. And if the face fits, employers will wait. They will wait for you. So 6 months, yeah, I would start putting in job adverts.
So if you see, an advert, the time doesn't work, apply anyway. Good employers love good people, and they'll try and be flexible. David, your advice the same?
I've seen a lot of mates go through it. They apply too early and the employers wouldn't wait for them. The excellent advice of between the 6 and 3 months is probably bob on, knowing that you've got 2 to 3 months off of it. So like me, you can do that month's overlap at the end. So I agree completely.
Okay, so you've applied for the job. We get to interview. So normally through the application process, the CVs first. So any advice that you would both give with regards to the CV? David, did you focus on petroleum? Was there a bias there within your CV? Did you keep it generic? What did you do?
I wrote CVs for jobs. So I went in for an FM one, but I highlighted strengths on petroleum. And also on the water delivery side of it, and it just happens that they picked up on the petroleum side of it in my case. Covering letters, again, I put on my bespoke knowledge of GSP 375, and how I've worked in that one. You can have a generic CV to start with, but right for the job. You can't put down all the qualifications for everything, all the experiences for everything, because you just only really cover 2 sides. There's a lot of people with a lot of advice, and you need to sort the wheat from the chaff, basically, and it's quite a difficult process.
How many revisions of a CV did you have, David?
I think I'm on version 7.2.
to give context. And Alex, what was that process like for you?
Well, it's interesting because I think CV writing has changed dramatically over the last 20 years. I had one CV. There was never any view of tailoring your CV to specific job adverts. So the focus was on my qualifications and my last job, and then really condensed down version of what I'd done previously. I did the CV writing resettlement course, which was really useful. So I would encourage, and it's free. It's a free. Well, it was in my time. I imagine it probably still is a free resettlement course. So get that one done soon as you can.
Okay, so we've got that exceptional CV tabled, foot in the door. We're called to interview now. So in terms of, we'll start with you, David, because it's most recent. How charming were you? Were you just David with an ex-military career, or were you still talking to that job description and leaning into it? What was the interview like for you?
So the first one where I done really badly, I was nervous. There was people with posh accents that put me back a bit. After failing that on the second one for Vinci, there was somebody with I don't know why, a common southern accent, which I fell into, and I instantly relaxed. So it's talking to people on my sort of level instead of working a few levels above, helped me relax. And that was an absolute fantastic job interview. There was a technical side to it. So I had all the post-it notes around the back of the computer and everything I revised. Virtually, I revised 10 points and they asked questions 1 to 10 in that order. And everything just fell into place for me. So yeah, it worked.
It worked, but it was all you led that. It was how you were feeling, and that's a really important theme there. Yeah, so you relaxed and you just got into a flow. How much military jargon did you have in there? Did you work hard at demilitarizing your content?
There was a few bits I had to demilitarize. So the first one was 3 ex-military, which it went all military, which probably didn't help the situation. The second one, where I had to think about my language a bit more and demilitarize it. It flowed a lot better for me.
Brilliant. Okay, and for you, Alex?
I think I was fortunate in that a lot of my career involved having to go through what we call boards, so basically formal interviews to gain promotion from one to the next. And the last one was probably my most daunting one. I was sat in front of 2 lieutenant commanders and a commander, so submarine squadron commander, and I think that experience helped me dramatically in sort of relaxing. I mean, there was I've done a few interviews since, and they've been a piece of cake since that I mean, it went on for about 4 hours. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah. I think that the key is your mannerism. So make sure you sit up straight. Don't put your heart. Don't fidget. Eyes focused, and just relax. And most importantly, don't be afraid to say you don't understand what they're saying, because sometimes if they come out with a question you don't fully understand, don't be afraid to ask them to rephrase it, or openly admit you don't know. Be honest.
There's a strength of character in that, isn't there? I quite like that. Yeah. The key point. So without giving numbers away, David, did you transition on kind of roughly the salary you were on, your military salary, or have you compromised?
We did it 2000, so yeah, it's been seamless for me that as well.
Thereabouts. And the trajectory going forward, what does career development look like? What role will you be in 2 years?
I'm saying the Mark Curtis, my boss, who was going to be on this interview initially, I'm aiming for the authorising engineer. So to be able to do that, I've got a number of courses I need to hit. As Alex said, I need to be a member of a professional body. Once I've got all that, I can step up, in which my jobs I can go NHS as well as all the ADO subcontractor firms. It opens up a lot more for me. Yeah, there's massive development there, and they're big on it in Civvy Street as well, really big.
Brilliant. Okay, and Alex, David mentioned being involved in a military charity, get some of these fix of abuse or banter or camaraderie. Do you miss your military career? Have you fully transitioned now, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I've been out since 2004. So
you're one of us now.
Yeah, the big thing for me was my children, really. You know, I'd go away for 9 weeks at a time and go on patrol, and I would get 3 20-word familygrams in that time. No external communications, as you can imagine, because it will give our position away. So that's what the main reason for me leaving is to enable me to see my kids growing up. And I still go to reunions, and we had a 40th reunion back in September. Fantastic to meet up with old faces and have a few beers. So yeah, I would encourage everyone to keep in touch with your colleagues once you've left. But I don't miss it. No.
Okay. And in terms of David, you're sitting there high vis on, firmly in the office. What is that work pattern for you? How often are you on site? Do you work from home? What are the days like?
I've not really set a pattern yet, to be honest. As I said, I've gone through training, I've been appointed. The work started trickling slowly, giving me the lesser work, and it's only as of this week I've got a full calendar. So again, 7 months on, I'm still progressing, I'm still learning. They've just asked me to train up somebody in this young state of this job I'm at, and I'm about to turn that down, so I'm not quite confident enough in it. So yeah, it's continually different, which I enjoy that quite a lot.
Okay, 5 days, 5.5 days?
Yeah, it's 5 days. I said some days are working from home when you've just got the paperwork. Most of the days I travel between sort of Bryce Norton, Thorney Islands, RF Odium today. That gets you about different atmospheres, all military networks as well, which I kind of enjoy. It's kind of cheating on the resettlement side of life as well.
Okay, and when you were transitioning, I mean, just looking about now, is this what you thought it would be like? Is it met expectations? Is it just completely different from what you'd anticipated?
As many people tell you, it's the fact your phone call doesn't go off, and your phone doesn't go off in the evening for some random duty. You've not got that stress, and you know it's 100% unless you're on a shift work. 9 to 5, there's nothing unexpected around the corner. You can settle into your life, plan a holiday with your family, which is an absolute rarity. It's different. I said I'm only a little bit anxious and slightly bored that there isn't that around the corner. But I'm happy it is around the corner, if that makes some sense.
Okay, and are you fit and healthy? Are you still staying active?
I've put on about 2.5, 3 stones where I need to get me over the large derriere down the gym to get some of that shifted now.
Okay, sorry, I don't mean to embarrass you there. Alex, are you fit and healthy? You're running marathon still, and you broke that cycle?
No, I'm probably fitter now than I was certainly during most of my Navy. I mean, I was a very, very keen athlete in my younger years. Certainly when I was doing my apprenticeship and represented the Navy under 21s in cross country. But I'm cycling now. I go out virtually every day after work. It's a really good way to de-stress, and I'm fortunate that quarter mile down the road I'm into Warwickshire countryside, nice country lanes, so I can get out and enjoy and keep myself fit and keep my weight down. So I do enjoy my food and drink.
Okay. Nothing wrong with being cute and cuddly.
That is one bit. Watch your fizz and watch your food intake on the way out, because it's natural. We all stop the fizz, put on a few stone, and it'll take a few more extra months because we're getting old to shift it. So try and focus on that as well when you get out.
You're in your honeymoon period, David. It's completely allowed. Yeah. It's completely allowed. So you make the most of it.
I bet my peak is coming down slowly.
Sammy Lawson's got a question. Hi, Sammy.
Hi, yeah. So as I was like building up towards leaving and everything, I was kind of mainly looking towards the site management. Done 2 interviews with Barrett, where one of the managers and one of the senior managers, and it looked brilliant. So they were going to wait for me. Obviously, they've now froze their transitioning scheme, which can't not put me in a flat, but knocked me back a little bit. And it was when I met Jamie Donaldson from CBRE, who kind of pointed me into the direction of the facilities management. But I keep going on these sites and looking at the jobs, and it kind of puts me off going for them because I kind of don't know whether I'd have the experience for it. So I've done loads of qualifications kind of towards the site management stuff. But then when I look at them, I think I could do them. It's just, I don't know. I think sometimes it's just a bit off-putting, would you recommend just going for it, or?
Absolutely, go for it. So what's your background?
So obviously I've done 26 years by the time I finish in September in Royal Engineers.
Yeah.
Motor transport was the main side of it I've been in, so being like an MT sergeant, but still involved in construction and stuff. So I kind of like the idea of construction and all that side of it. I've done the SMSTS and currently on the NEBOSH General at the moment, but I've done NEBOSH Construction, Environment and Fire. I'm a crane op, and I've done the military appointed persons, but it doesn't go across. So I don't know really.
It does sound like you've got the experience to. I mean, what you've got to bear in mind is that, you know, for any application you put in, you won't have 100% of the criteria that are met. So you've got to work on the principle that you've got a lot of experience on facility management already. When I left, I had no experience of petroleum at all, and you just gain it as you go along, and the companies will put you on courses to ensure that you become qualified in the various positions that you need to do your job. So I would suggest, I mean, depending where you're based, if you happen to be in the southwest or in the central region, go on the VIVO website, and there are vacancies on there, and there might be one for a site manager or operations manager. Those are the guys that work in the sites managing the planned and reactive maintenance. So it's more of a management role than necessarily having the technical background, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest one was, so I kind of went for one. So I kind of, when Barrett's fell through, so recently I've just put in an application for Bloor Homes, but I think it was through probably a recruiter. So yesterday I got an email back saying, oh, you know, you haven't been successful, but with no feedback, which was a bit disappointing on why I weren't successful. But it was kind of knocked me a little bit. I thought, well, I've got all the qualifications. I've already had this lined up, and now you've just told me no. My CV I've sent through to BuildForce off advice from Jamie Donaldson, and I had a recruiter look at my CV as well, who I knew just through social media, really, and they were happy with all that side of it. There's not much military jargon in it. I don't know. It was just a bit of a knock yesterday, like getting that email, and then it kind of put me off going, oh, well, I'll just go for it.
You're bound to get knocks along the way. We all go through ups and downs in our careers, and you've just got to take, you know, there will be some positives out of the negatives. So just you know, be confident in your abilities and keep working and applying. Something will come along, because to be perfectly honest, there are quite a lot of opportunities out there. If you've got an engineering background, you'll be fine. I guarantee it.
Thanks, Alex and David.
Like I said earlier, Sammy, if you can, analyse what you've done. There is a commonality in questions, and try, as he said, Alex said, try and turn these negatives into positive. Learn what the questions were, because every interview is going to have a similar question set, and try to develop them from that. And don't think too bad about it. Just take it as a learning experience.
Just dusting yourself off. It's annoyed you. I can tell it's annoyed you, and it's not great. And Caroline, just on that, a lot of the employers that we work with have got a military programme. That interview process is more structured. The feedback is there. The guidance and the support's there from the military leads. Would that be your advice in the first instance? Get back into a kind of safe and respected space, Sammy, and see if Caroline can glean some feedback from our employers, and see if that can just build your confidence back up.
Yeah, absolutely, Sammy. Just get in touch. We'll support you and get you in front of those employers. And you know, if you can get on site and do a work placement, again, that's a good opportunity. But I appreciate you might not be in the situation to be able to do that, but it's connecting you with the employers who can see those transferable skills and where you'll fit within the organisation.
Okay, so Sammy, mark my words, in a year's time, you're going to be here as an employer leading this virtual chat, and people are going to be asking you, and you're going to give them that very advice.
Yeah.
Well, just on that point, can I thank you to David and Alex for their incredible contribution today. Great opportunities with Vinci and VIVO, and both vast and very impressive organisations. You are not alone. BuildForce are here to support and guide you as you transition. Please get in touch if you have any questions, and we'll help you take this further. And I will pass back to Caroline for some final insights.
Thanks, Angela. And thank you, David and Alex. That was really good to see the two different spectrums of facilities management, and really honest portrayal from David, because it's not always easy for everyone out there. Some people fly, some people struggle. But again, we are here to support you all the way and hold your hand and give you a big fat cuddle if that's what you'd like. So I'm delighted this week to end on Armed Forces Day on Saturday. I hope you've all got your own festivities going on, but I will be leading, kind of leading. My map reading's not the greatest, but I am going to be leading a 15-mile trek across Dorset. We have mentors, we have employers, and we have some veterans and service leavers joining us. So it's going to be a real jolly walk as we swap hours of stories, and then we're going to end at the pub for much needed refreshments. So if you're interested in joining us, it's not too late. I'm sure we can squeeze you in, get you some more pizza. That's what we're ending with, because we'll have earned it. But if you can't join us, then please do take part in your local festivities. It's really important to celebrate the true value of our armed forces. And I know that's what Angela and I do every day, because we wouldn't be here without you. So thank you, and have a great weekend, whatever you're doing.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, David. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.